ساتوی پسرو وینو دا د شهیدانو کور دا د باتورانو کور دا د باتورانو کور دا د باتورانو کور دا د باتورانو کور ساتوی پسرو وینو دا د شهیدانو کور دا
Hello and good evening. Today is Monday, April 28, 2025. This is Suleiman Talash and you're watching English News Bulletin from RTA News. Let's dive into today's news updates from the country and beyond. Mullah Muhammad Yunus Akhundzada, the Rural Rehabilitation and Development Minister, met with Rosa Otanbayeva, the Special Representative of the UN Secretary General, and her accompanying delegation. The Ministry of Rural Rehabilitation and Development says that during this meeting, the Special Representative of the UN Secretary General assured the organization of its continued cooperation with returning refugees. Foreign Minister Maulavi Amir Khan Muttaqi met with the UN Secretary General for Humanitarian Affairs and discussed a number of issues, including climate change, returning refugees, and resolving humanitarian problems. At the same time, the Ministry of Economy, in addition to continuing humanitarian assistance to Afghanistan, is also calling on the international community to assist in the implementation of development projects. Here is a full detailed story.
The UN Secretary General's visit to Afghanistan. UN Secretary General for Humanitarian Affairs Tom Fletcher met with Foreign Minister Maulavi Amir Khan Muttaqi to discuss the return of compatriots from neighboring countries, climate change preparedness, and counter-narcotics measures.
The
Minister of Foreign Affairs stated that the Islamic Emirate is determined to ensure that the country stands on its own feet in various fields. However, it still requires foreign aid and requested that support for the people of Afghanistan continue. Aid should align with the needs and priorities of the Afghan people and to be provided in a way that has a positive impact on the domestic economy, local markets, and the country's capacities.
In this meeting, the UN Secretary General said that changing the nature of aid from humanitarian assistance to development and infrastructure work and taking into account the priorities of the Afghan people will be among their goals.
The meeting of Mr. Muttaqi and his request to the United Nations emphasizes the importance of the continuing humanitarian aid. Humanitarian assistance through international organizations can play an effective role in improving the situation of the people of Afghanistan. International community must not only provide humanitarian assistance, but also do so in a fair manner, within the framework of human rights and international principles.
Meanwhile, the Ministry of Economy welcomes humanitarian assistance from the international community in the current circumstances. It calls on the international community to increase development assistance in addition to humanitarian assistance.
Aid from the international community, including humanitarian, must continue for the people of Afghanistan. Our request to the aid organizations and the international community is that, alongside humanitarian assistance, developmental and growth-oriented aid should also continue to Afghanistan.
The Ministry of Foreign Affairs said that Maulavi Amir Khan Muttaqi assured Deputy of Antonio Guterres of cooperation on behalf of the Islamic Emirate and agreed to increase coordination and joint work to increase the effectiveness and efficiency of aid.
Richard Trenchard, the Director General of the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, met with Maulavi Matiul Haq Khalais, the Director of the National Environmental Protection Agency. During the meeting, Mr. Khalais appraised the activities of the organization and pledged that Afghanistan is working in coordination with international organizations to combat climate change. Mr. Trenchard also pledged support and cooperation to the organization and emphasized the continuation of technical and financial assistance to Afghanistan. The Ministry of Refugees and Repatriation has signed 4 cooperation agreements worth $616,759 with 4 organizations. According to these agreements, this amount of money will be spent on distributing cash assistance to refugees in Nangarhar and host provinces, building water supply networks, providing vocational training facilities, and distributing raw materials. 47 years ago, On 17th of July 1973, People's Democratic Party overthrew the government of the President Mohammad Daoud Khan, bringing about a profound change in the political, economic and security situation in Afghanistan. The Islamic Emirate says on this day that the purpose of this coup was to colonize the territory of Afghanistan and impose communist ideology on the people. Here is a full detailed report.
On the 7th of Sawar 1357, a military coup was carried out in Afghanistan by members of the People's Democratic Party. On the morning of the 7th of Sawar, the presidential palace was attacked by air and land. Then, Sardar Muhammad Daoud Khan was killed along with 18 members of his family, and Nur Muhammad Taraki ascended to the throne. Analysts say that this coup is a dark day in the history of Afghanistan and that it has only brought war, poverty, migration and instability to the country.
After this tragedy, the neighboring countries and major world powers found an opportunity to interfere, which eventually led to millions of Afghans leaving their homeland, and we lost much of the infrastructure we had built. The 7th of Sawar began with a bloody coup, marking a turning point in our country's history. This coup was carried out with deceit and bloodshed, and it succeeded surprisingly and suddenly.
Muhammad Aghazaki, who is still an employee of the National Radio Television, says that on the morning of the 7th of Sawar, the presidential palace was attacked by Air Force Commander Aslam Watanjar, and contrary to expectations, the Republic was overthrown and the Democratic Party was victorious. And the sound of its victory was broadcast in many parts of Afghanistan from the same studio of Kabul Radio.
It was announced from this place that for the first time their family, meaning Daoud Khan, Zahir Shah and those belonging to their dynasty, had been permanently overthrown. Their government was dismantled, and in its place the People's Democratic Party of Afghanistan Central Committee, the Revolutionary Council and the Council of Ministers seized political power.
Ghulam Hussain Ibrahimi, a victim of the atrocities and brutalities of that time, and about 10 members of his family were buried alive, says that about 2,000 civilians and soldiers were killed and millions of others were displaced in the conflicts after the coup by members of the People's Democratic Party of Afghanistan.
The people who had some reputation and leadership among their tribes and who served their communities did not think about whether someone was Tajik, Hazara, Pashtun, Aimaq, or even Hindu. Everyone was included.
The Islamic Emirate also says on the 7th of Sawar that the military coup against the government of that time by the communist armies paved the way for the communist regime to invade the sanctuaries of the zealous Muslim nation, and its aim was to impose communist ideology on the people.
Exactly 47 years ago, on the 7th of Sawar, 1357, a military coup was carried out by communist forces against the government of that time, paving the way for a communist invasion of the proud Muslim of Afghanistan. This was done with the aim of turning Afghanistan into a colony, enslaving its people, and imposing communist ideology.
It is notable that on the 7th of Sawar, the People's Democratic Party of Afghanistan overthrew the rule of Sardar Muhammad Daoud Khan, and the differences between Nur Muhammad Taraki and Hafizullah Amin led by the Soviet intervention in Afghanistan. After all this chaos, the Mujahideen were finally victorious on the 8th of Sawar 1371, and the Soviet Third Army was defeated.
The Ministry of Refugees and Repatriation says that 12 Afghans were released from Pakistani prisons yesterday and returned to the country. According to the ministry, these individuals had spent 1 to 2 days in detention. The National Statistics and Information Authority states that based on the country's export and import figures, exports valued at $403.9 million occurred in the fourth quarter of 1403. Officials note that these exports include dried and fresh fruits, medicinal plants, and minerals, which were sent to India, Pakistan, the United Arab Emirates, and Iran. And the final one is that the Panjshir Department of Mines and Petroleum says that an Afghan investor is investing $12 million in iron ore mining in the province. The investor will invest in a mine located on ore area of 22 square kilometers in the Parian district of the province. It's worth mentioning that the agreement for this project has also been approved by the Deputy Prime Minister for Economic Affairs. That's all for tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a good night.
شهیدانو کور دا د باتورانو کور دا د باتورانو کور دا د باتورانو کور دا د باتورانو کور ساتوي پسرو وینو دا د شهیدانو کور دا